This is the 2023 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392. On this video, I'm going to show you everything that's new for the 23 platform, some things they took away, and a few things that we changed to make it a little bit better for our needs. All right, let's get to it. Okay, so real quick for those that are familiar with the channel, yes, this is a 23 Hydro Blue 392, and no, it is not replacing my 21 Sarge Green 392. This, in fact, belongs to my dad. He ordered it in February of 2022. It ended up getting rolled over as a 23, and basically I'm here to tell you all about it and kind of what has changed for 23. Now, the 392s already come pretty tiered out. If you're not familiar with them, you get leather standard, adaptive cruise control, 8.4-inch touchscreen. It's got a lot of features that if you want a really nice Wrangler, you're going to get basically standard. On top of that, you can opt for a few things. This one has the Xtreme Recon package, so you're going to get 456 gears, the heavy-duty tire gate, the flare extensions, along with the beadlock capable 17-inch wheels and 35-inch tall tires. No, these are not 35s, these are 37s, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. Now, the first thing I noticed that was different on this 2023 is that it no longer said Unlimited on the side of the Jeep, it just said Wrangler. And what I've learned is they no longer use Unlimited to designate the four-door Wranglers. In fact, if you're gonna buy one, it's literally just Wrangler two-door or Wrangler four-door. Kind of makes me wonder if they did that for customer confusion or if they're gonna be using that Unlimited badging for something in the future. So here is something that's sort of new for 2023, but actually showed up on some late 2022s, and that's this crash bracket. It's only on the passenger side, and from what I understand, its primary sort of benefit is if you get in a frontal collision, it's designed to keep the tire from moving into the actual body of the Jeep. So that should keep the passenger's legs from getting crushed. Now, in terms of off-road clearance, it sits down about the same level as the lower control arm mounts. It's not a huge hindrance there. It does clear the 37 fine. That's not an issue. If you do want to get rid of this thing, you can unbolt it to a certain point, and then you actually have to sawzall the heads of two of the bolts off to get this thing out, and then there's a hard, longer bracket on the frame that you will have to remove. Now, the interior of the Jeep is pretty much the same with the exception of the removal of the secondary interior dimmer. Now, what that dimmer switch did was allow you to control the brightness of your floor lighting and cup holder lighting. That's been bundled into the single dimmer that's to the left of your wheel, so you can still control dash brightness and things like that. You just can't fine tune it as well as you could in previous years. So for 23, there isn't a lot of powertrain differences. This engine still has 470 pound-feet of torque and 470 horsepower. It's still mated to the same 8-speed transmission and 3022 transfer case. Now, I get this question a lot. Yes, you can make the 392 two-wheel drive. All you have to do is buy a Taser JL Mini from Z Automotive. And it will put this transfer case electronically into two-wheel drive. Keep in mind, this transfer case comes in other Jeep models that has the ability to go into two-wheel drive. So you're not doing anything to hurt your transfer case. If anything, you're putting a lot of pressure on that rear axle, putting all that power to just it. And I think that was one of the reasons that the engineers said, hey, listen, let's just make this thing for auto, probably keep people from, breaking ring and pinions as easily. I trust this axle with 37s. I typically don't run in two-wheel drive a lot. I like it on the highway. It gets just a little bit better fuel economy and makes the steering a little bit lighter. For in town, I typically keep it on 4 auto with the traction control defaulted off. It's just a little bit more fun to drive that way, and if you punch it, it's not really going to break the rear loose. It's just going to hook up and go. So that's how I prefer it. But yeah, if you want to have a two-wheel drive 392 in 2023, you just have to buy a $350 module. Not that big deal, but there is no big powertrain differences, nothing really all that new under the hood. Now, one thing that there is missing for 23 is there's no 20th anniversary. This should be a 20th anniversary Rubicon. I don't get why it's not. I guess it's coming, but a little bummed that that wasn't the case for this. Now, I, like many other people, thought for sure we would see a 20th anniversary with 37s coming direct from the factory. Unfortunately, that was not the case. So I basically did the same thing to my dad's that I did to mine. Is I made it my own sort of 20th anniversary, at least how I feel like these things should have came, and I put 37s on it. Now with the Xtreme Recon kit, it's really easy to do. One of the reasons is you get a wheel that's got the right back spacing and width that you can put a 37 1250 on. Not a big deal. With the Mopar rear tire gate, it clears the bumper and bolts on just fine. The only real modification you need to do to the suspension is you need to remove the 1-inch bump stop in the back and put in a 2-inch bump stop. I did the same thing to my dad's as I did to mine, which is I put in a 2-inch bump stop spacer from JKS Manufacturing. These are adjustable spacers. They're very inexpensive, but that's all you need to make sure that the 37 is not going to rub in the back. The longer perch up front for the bump stop keeps the front from rubbing. So yeah, it doesn't take anything to put 37s under these. In fact, with the 456 gears, I actually prefer it for the highway. Now, what tire you choose is obviously, you know, sometimes it's a styling thing, or if you need a mud terrain, you know, because you're dealing with a lot of mud, you can go that route. My dad really liked the Nitto Recon Grappler AT, mostly because they're under his 2014 Ram 2500. He puts a lot of miles on that truck, driving from like here to Key West, Florida. He liked how smoothly it rode. It was a very quiet tire. The challenge initially with that is you could only get the Recon Grappler with a 20. Now you can get them in 17s. And so he's like, hey, can you get this in a 17? I was like, yep, no problem. So we ordered these through Low Range 4x4 here in Wilmington and got a 37 by 1250 R17. Got them mounted and balanced, no problem. If you're not familiar with what the Recon Grappler AT, it's sort of an unconventional all-terrain in that it does have larger lugs. You have very, very deep spacing between the lugs, so it kind of has some of those cues that you would find really more on a mud terrain, but they don't make a lot of noise. They've got a great amount of sipes to them, so it's just a very sure-footed tire that is going to really work well for his needs. He's more excited about maybe taking this thing to Moab than he is trying to go to Uwharrie or any place where it's going to be really muddy. So if you're more rock-oriented and you're going to be putting a lot of highway miles on it, this is a really good tire for that. It's also worth noting that this is one of Nitto's lighter tire offerings, so it actually weighs in, I think, about 10 pounds less per tire than my trail grapplers, which is a good deal when you're trying to eke out as much performance as you can. Now, one thing I'm a little surprised that Jeep hasn't kind of brought into its fold is adjustable shocks. There are so many companies now that offer that at a, you know, a high tier and even OE level. I would have loved to have seen something with some sort of remote reservoir on it that gives you the ability to dial in the ride. On-road, this thing's very comfortable. Off-road, you can feel that heavy V8 engine and you'll blow through the shocks a little fast if you're going to drive it, you know, like it's got a V8. So I wish there was something a little bit more there. Generally, I think that they did a pretty good job of dialing it in, especially for daily driving. I think that's fine. Off-road is really where it falls a little bit short, so I wish there was something that they just offered a Fox 2.5 package or 3.0 package where you could get some type of reservoir that had adjustable compression adjuster. Now, in terms of speed and power, it will still spin the 37s without issue. So anyone that says, oh man, you're putting on 37s, you're killing the power, like, you just haven't driven a 392. I hate to sound like a jerk, but this thing's got a ton of power. It's legitimately a night and day difference between the 4-cylinder turbo, the V6. Like, I've had other Wranglers. It's not like this is my first time, but this is like, it's a whole different ball game in terms of speed and comfort, and it's so wild that it's a big 4-door Jeep and it's this fast. Well, I think at the end of the day, it's pretty fantastic that you can still get a V8 Wrangler from the factory. By far, in my opinion, I think this is the most capable Wrangler ever produced. The fact that all it takes is a set of bump stops in the back to run a 37 is pretty fantastic. Yes, they're a very, very expensive Jeep. I wish it was cheaper. If you're the type of guy that's like, man, I think I'm just gonna go buy a Sport and go take it to America's Most Wanted 4x4 and let them do their 392 upgrade, which I think is around $30,000. To me, I would look at the numbers a little bit tighter. I have, and if you're gonna get a nicely equipped Rubicon and then you're going to go do the V8 conversion through them, I think you'll be surprised to find that this is about cheaper or about the same price. At least you get all the factory warranty and all that good stuff. So I don't know, nothing to say bad about America's Most Wanted 4x4. I will say I've never seen any of these things overheat on the trail, and Jeep trips in the past I've definitely seen aftermarket conversions struggle with that. So feels like Jeep maybe have figured out something that other companies have not. So that's my 2 cents on that. We'll see if they continue to make the V8. I think if you're thinking about getting one, this is probably a good time to do it, at least if you're interested in one from the factory. Seems like the aftermarket's going to be supporting these things for a while, but that's about it. I really like this. If you got any questions, just drop them in the comments. Be happy to get back with you the best I can, and until next time, take care. See you guys on the trail. Bye-bye.